Hello, and welcome to Philosophy News, keeping you up to date with the out-of-date philosophers. Today we have three well-known philosophers here with us answering the hard-hitting questions that you, the people, are dying to know. Our first guest, you know him, you love him, Plato. How are you doing today?
That's an interesting question. To understand how one can be, first we must discuss why one is. Would you not agree? Would you not all agree?
Wisdom.
How can one do without discussing why one does or does not? Does one do? And if he does, is it for the good? Is it not for the good? Do you see what I'm trying to say here? Is this not true?
It is true.
So to understand why one does, one must understand, does that elucidate man from the chains of darkness and ignorance to the cave mouth where the cold light of reality and truth shines through?
So, doing fine, I see. And now for our next guest, Heigl.
I don't know about the others, but I am very confused by this strange and modern world. And frankly, I would have thought we would have reached the end of history by now. But it is what it is, I suppose.
Great. And now for the creator of the Ubermensch, Nietzsche.
We have all killed God. How can we live with ourselves?
So, as you already know, art nowadays has traveled into many different areas with TV, music, museums, movies, even just a click away from your phone. How does it feel to know that so many people have access to so many different art styles?
Art is nothing but a pale imitation of reality, is it not?
That's true.
Is it not?
Yes, it is not.
Can it really be said that man is living the good if they have such pale imitations of reality? Man will never travel to the mouth of the cave and be exposed to the hard light of truth and reality. They will constantly be in chains of ignorance in the depths of the cave.
I think it will be very interesting to see how the mass access to art nowadays speeds up the dialectical process and the collision between differing points of view. And overall, I think this is a good thing, as now people have more access to art and can engage in more cultures. Though I will caution that it may diminish the beauty of art now that artists appeal to, let's say, the common consumer, no offense, and instead, they will no longer prioritize expressing their true spirit of art.
What does it matter what all of these art forms and art styles are? They're all sanitized. They're burned by the solar Apollonian desire for order and neatness. Everyone praises the individual and their own desires, but the variety of the art styles matters not to the uneducated, servile masses if they do not use it to fully embrace the chaos of the natural world. Despite all of the new art styles, they've all simply been used to cater to the less intelligent public in their orderly illusion of the Principium Individualensis.
What are your thoughts on Marvel's Endgame? Would you consider that art, or would you consider art to be in the movies rather than the movies being the art?
Well, this was certainly one of the most successful pieces of media in recent history, or so I'm told. And, well, it was certainly a spectacle. However, I would not actually consider it to represent any sort of beauty. Unlike even symbolic art, it makes little attempt at actually exploring the true spirit or universal meaning, and it falls completely short of even the advanced explorations of the Geist provided by the classical and romantic artworks.
Theaters, plays, designed to keep the masses in ignorance. In the perfect society, as I have written, this farce of reality would never be shown. I cannot have the philosopher king corrupted by this this pale imitation of an imitation of reality. What purpose does it serve? Does it allow a person to go to the cave mouth?
Plato, we've talked about this.
Sheer drivel. I was utterly disappointed by the ease with which art has been corrupted to the masses' viewpoints. Even at the areas where they seem as though to embrace full chaos, there's a formulaic, orderly method by which each one of these movies, you call them, just reduces itself to the most useless form of order. None but the most servile, foolish, unintelligent could ever consider that true art.
In your opinion, would you consider today's music artistically equivalent to the ones of the past? Would you disagree or agree?
Well, I must confess that compared to my more cosmopolitan knowledge of literature and physical artwork, I do not know as much about music. Regardless, I do actually think that today's music can be held to a similar standard of the music of my time. Even in my time, music and composers primarily geared their music towards royal courts or for public consumption. And nowadays, we can see that even though musicians make their songs for public consumption, it still retains their emotive, emotional qualities.
Throughout history, it appears as though there have been many swings of the pendulum, from the Apollonian to the Dionysian ideas of music. From pure chaos to the Pythagorean dryness of order. And even now it seems that today's popular music is nothing but a mere imitation of the order of Apollonian music. Although, with the universalization of this, I would disagree with Hegel and say that there are so many different cultural aspects and non-popular music forms that really do lean into the natural and the very chaotic forms of music. And those forms would be something that a true Ubermensch could appreciate.
This music is nothing more than poetry, is it not?
Absolutely.
Completely true, completely.
It is set to music, is it not? This is simply poetry set to music, is it not? A poet is nothing more than a distraction from the search for truth and goodness. Even that good man Homer elucidated on the rapturous stories of the gods. We cannot allow music to corrupt our society. The philosopher king must be able to go to the cave mouth,
Plato,
and he must.
Plato, we have talked about this. I'm gonna have to cut you out of the interview if you don't stop.
I am sorry. I am sorry.
Do you think that the art we have today would fail to amaze, or would it be just as good as the art in your period? Would it be better or worse?
What is better? What is the good? Can one honestly say that art does good? A man who refuses to travel from a dark place to a light place in search of truth must first understand that art is nothing but a pale imitation of reality.
While art has fluctuated, shifting in a pendulum between the Apollonian and the Dionysian, between excesses and between balance, between being good and bad, the sheer magnitude of art nowadays means that the vast majority of it appeals to the masses and the slave mentality of ressentiment that no true Ubermensch or aristocrat could really appreciate. So it becomes very much harder to find real, true art.
Didn't you just talk about the pendulum and how art appeals to the masses?
It didn't become less true.
So we're almost out of time, so just one more question that people are wanting to know. What role do you think art plays in society?
Art should bring back balance between the orderly dreamlike state of Apollo and the chaotic, naturalistic, intoxicated state of Dionysus. And it should allow for those Ubermensch, those great men with the will to power, to take control of the creation of the world around them and allow them to escape from this conception of society in which they're stuck in a cave of ignorance.
I believe that art helps free society, not from a cave, but from themselves, by exploring what I refer to as the spirit, though what my colleagues may call beauty. It is through this exploration that we achieve freedom, which I would define to be an end of history, where we have resolved all of our socio-political conflicts through the dialectical process by which we determine which form of society, of policy, and of the world order in general is truly the best.
Art should be non-existent. It distracts. It is a pale imitation of reality. The cave that I've took.
Cut. I'm cut.
So this German guy can bring up the cave, but I cannot? Why? Why? For an imitation of an imitation, this is the best imitation I have ever seen.
Is this what they would call true beauty?
This is more. This is the pure Dionysian chaos.
It's
Only a true Ubermensch could really
It's
thought of
almost
this.
like reality. It is so real, but it is an imitation. It's weird.